Hello friends, this is Rwandan team. We welcome you to Wellspring Gala. We work with thousands of students and thousands of teachers and thousands of parents. And we do all this for quality education. So we thank you for your support. We can't do this work without you. And we thank you and we love you so much.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Stay Home Gala. We are so thankful that you guys could be joining us again this morning. We have had just an incredible day. It has been absolutely amazing yesterday, where we laid the foundation of why. Why quality education? Why Rwanda? Just hope that you guys were able to engage, enjoy those films, the discussions, the conversation, and you were able to join us in the evening to watch a film about Jeff, our filmmaker, and his passion for education in Rwanda. So I'm just trying to catch my breath. We're running around here a fair amount. It looks like I am frozen. Is that right? Does look like I am frozen there, folks. So let me just hang on here. My screen is completely frozen there. I'm not sure where the rest of my team is. We're going to pause for a second here, folks, and I will be right back.
Hello friends, this is Rwandan team. We welcome you to Wellspring Gala. We work with thousands of students and thousands of teachers and thousands of parents. And we do all this for quality education. So thank you for your support. We can't do this work without you. And we thank you and we love you so much.
Welcome back to Stay Home Gala. Man, I'm having a rough day today. I was muted. So all of that wonderful intro that you've heard. I'm back though. You guys can hear me now, hopefully. Welcome to Stay Home Gala Day 2. It's been a wonderful morning so far for me, but I'm deciding to let it go. I was frozen, then I'm muted, and I'm letting it go. I'm just letting it go. We hope if you joined us yesterday that you enjoyed engaging with the films, with the discussions, with the conversations that we had. We heard from Andy, our CEO. We spent the day just kind of laying a foundation around the why. Why are we in Rwanda? Why are we focused on quality education? What is quality education? We heard from our leadership in Rwanda about what we're doing right now in response to the COVID-19 crisis, how we are engaging in helping get lessons on the radio for students to keep learning, how we're helping out with some food security things, and we're getting food distributed to families in the Rubavu district. And so, yeah, we also got a chance to watch a film about our filmmaker who is normally on the back side of the camera. And now he's on the front side of the camera, and just able to hear his passion for Wellspring and why he continues to work with us. We had a great question yesterday. One of our viewers thoughtfully asked, how can our partners, how can you be praying for our Wellspring team? And we actually reached out to our Rwandan colleagues and asked them about what would the best way for us to be supporting you in prayer be. And here's what they've asked for in prayer. They would like strength and protection. If you could pray for strength and protection for our drivers who are out in the field working long hours and playing their part in the national COVID-19 response. I actually have an interesting tidbit to share with you about that a little bit later on. They've also asked for prayer around healing and recovery for one of our staff members who has been unwell for some time. And also, the last thing that they shared with us is just pray for wisdom for our leaders who are planning for the best way forward, both during this COVID-19 crisis as we address immediate needs, as well as mapping out strategies beyond this season. So we are just really grateful for the ways that our community, our Wellspring family, those partners, and all of you have reached out and are standing with us during this challenging time. Thank you for your generosity, for your encouragement, and for your prayers. I do have a quick finance update for you. As you know, if you have been listening along in the last day or so, we are hoping over our Stay Home Gala, which we are doing in place of the gala that we would normally hold at the Westin Bayshore in Vancouver every spring. We've taken it online during this time. And our goal over the 4 days, so we're on day 2 today, over the 4 days was to hit $250,000 to support our work in Rwanda. And I'm really, really excited to let you know that we are a quarter of the way there right now. We are at 25% of our goal after the first day. So that is just amazing. We are on track. And I did let you know yesterday that some partners have offered to match all gifts up to $100,000. And so out of that 25% raised, that's including stuff like through our silent auction and through the marketplace, which you can go and check out. What's left in the match right now, there's $69,000 still that is available to be matched. So if you're planning on giving, now is a great time to have your donation doubled. So you guys can do that online if you visit wellspring.ngo/give. And I'll just run a scroller there at the bottom of the screen for you if you're looking for that. So that's excellent. We also had a morning update from Rwanda. I'll just let you know, stuff is changing every day. New information is coming. And our leadership team met this morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time. Later in the evening in Rwanda, we're about 8 hours difference, I guess, right now. So that's Libby and Amina, who you would have heard of, you would have heard from yesterday, as well as our CEO, Andy, and then Louise Riley, who you'll be hearing from a little bit later today. They met, they are our leadership team. So when you are praying for wisdom for our leaders as they're planning the way forward, those are 4 of them that you would be praying for. So we had an interesting, so they met as a team this morning, and there's some updates that we've just gotten out of that meeting. So first, food update. Distribution has gone really well. Food's already been given out to 400 plus families in the Rubavu district. One of the recipients shared with them, God has seen us and provided for us. Given the continued need, we have authorized a further purchase and distribution. And this will be decided on when the Rwandan leadership team meets again tomorrow. That's not the overall leadership team of Wellspring, but the Rwandan leadership team to see how that can best be done. We also had an update on girls, which we're going to hear a little bit more about later on today, and what are some of the specific challenges that we're facing with girls' education. But with our increased focus in this area, we're thrilled to be in conversation with a partner organization in Rwanda about potentially working together to get key messaging and resources out to girls, particularly teens and preteens in areas that we work. Our drivers, next update from Rwanda, our drivers, Seth, Alexi, and David. I had a picture up on the screen yesterday when Andy was speaking. They had their first day yesterday as part of the COVID-19 task force as part of the government in the area. And it was a long 18-hour day, but they felt rewarded that they were contributing through transporting doctors and supplies. And we actually got a letter. I'm just going to pop this up on the screen here. This is a letter from the mayor of Rubavu district. I don't know if you're able to read that on the screen, so I'll just read it off to you. So it's a recognition letter, and it's to certify that Wellspring Foundation has demonstrated a valuable contribution in fighting against the effects of COVID-19 as one of the members of the JADF, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that next word, operating in Rubavu district. And that's really our drivers jumping in with our vehicles and spending their time helping to distribute I believe food, as well as helping getting doctors and supplies around. So that's just absolutely amazing. We also had an update on sanitation and school return. Though nobody knows yet when schools will reopen, we're going to be surveying the need for sanitation stations. Andy talked about this yesterday, particularly in the schools where we work, and assessing how we can best respond. We're also working on plans for the continuation of our core work once schools reopen to ensure that the development of quality education continues, even in the midst of potential new realities due to COVID-19. And lastly, from Rwanda, the radio lessons. So our team is continuing to work on those radio lessons, adapting them based on feedback to ensure that what ends up on the airwaves is of the best quality possible. So that's a bit of an update, a long-winded opening, few hiccups along the way, but we're here. We're heading into our morning moment now. And part of my technology issue here is I've just lost the video for these guys. So I'm going to try get them all back here. And we're going to spend some time with Louise Loudoun, who you would have met yesterday with us, as well as Christy, who you would have saw on the screen, she was talking about silent auction yesterday, one of our partner engagement coordinators, public engagement coordinators. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. And we're also going to hear from Chris Wignall, one of our board members. So I'm just going to bring these guys back up if I can. And we will see if I can get them all back here. Hey guys, are you able to hear me? I think I've got them here. So let me just see if I can work my way through this. And what I'll do is I'll call them all back in. So let's start with Louise Loudoun. Let's see if we can get her up. And I will call her. There we go. So as we launch in today's program, we're going to have a conversation here with Louise Loudoun, one of my coworkers out in Ontario. I believe I've got Louise there. Hey, Louise. Good morning. Somehow the call also got hung up in the tech issue there. So I just don't have your video yet. If you could start that would be awesome. Yeah, great. So Louise will be joining us. I'm going to bring Christy in here in just a sec. So let's get Louise up on screen.
You know what, Jason, like Turakumwe, man, we are in this together. So glad to have everybody with us this morning. And we're just here as the people we are, doing the best that we can. And we got some great stories to tell you today. And we're excited about that. Christy's going to join me in just a second as Jason just pulls her back in the feed. I wonder if I could ask you, if you're watching today, if you caught any of yesterday, what was your favorite moment from yesterday? What did you watch, or what did you hear that had an impact on you? We'd love for you to just throw that into the live chat. If there's something that was meaningful that you caught yesterday, just let us know the piece that you found interesting. And if I've got Christy back up here, which I think I do, I'm going to throw it right over to you, Christy. I just asked our audience if they would just type into the chat one of their favorite memories from yesterday. What about you? What was one of your favorite moments from our storytelling from yesterday?
Well, thanks, Louise. Our Rwandan colleagues are some of the most incredible people I've ever met. And it's been such a privilege to get to know them over the course of these few years. And just hearing from Gilbert and Emmanuel, and then one of our newest colleagues, Amina, was so good. And I'm always so inspired by their passion, their persevering hearts. It's an honor to serve and support them. And so yesterday, when Amina shared about the reality of what's going on in Rwanda, a beautiful people, a beautiful country, and yet just this COVID situation has been so hard for them. She painted the picture of how communities have shared what they have. They've extended themselves. Churches have tried to intervene. Families are still really struggling. And so she helped us to understand the why of food security is so important right now, and why our Wellspring team has felt compelled to respond. And so it's just such an honor to be able to support them in these efforts. And Amina overflowed with gratitude to us, and I just was overflowing with gratitude to our team, to her, and to it's such an honor to be a part of it. And so it felt like we get to be an answer to prayer to people who are praying for food in their bellies, and just that we get to see that God is providing and we get to be a part of it is such an honor. So yeah, so that was the highlight for me. What about for you, Louise?
You know, I woke up this morning, and one of my favorite journalists, Nicholas Kristof, I subscribe to his newsletters, and he has written an interesting piece in the New York Times today about the impact of COVID-19 in some of the developing parts of the world, like Rwanda, and that the impact of the disease itself might not be the very thing that sadly takes most people's life. It's actually hunger that is going to ravage so many of these communities. And so it is really powerful that we've been able to, thanks to the people who are watching today and others who are enabling us to buy, purchase, and distribute food in Rwanda. So that was a meaningful moment for sure. And then Ontarians, like, we're on a bit of a time difference as we go across the nation, coast to coast with our gala here. So I stayed up late to catch Jeff Heath's insider look at what it means to him to be the filmmaker who's captured our story over the last 8 years. And I was blown away by, well, he's a storyteller, he's a professional storyteller, but he just sat in front of the camera and talked to us about what it's meant to go to Rwanda 8 times and to capture the stories and to see the growth of people. And he's really had a privileged place of viewing and like seeing up close so many cool things. So if Ontarians, if you didn't stay up last night till 10:30 to catch that video, and if you're on the West Coast, it aired a little earlier. If you didn't catch that video, we just want to really encourage you, jump onto our website, look at the archives of yesterday's work. If you're going to watch anything from yesterday, I don't know, I just think that moment to end the day was a really nice encapsulation of who we are, why we do what we do, and what we're really passionate about. So,
hey guys,
we
have a few comments coming in on the live stream that our comms team is helping bring to my attention here. Ben Keller joined us for most of the day, and he is excited for another day. He's got Kleenex and everything, he has said.
We love you,
from
Ben.
Yesterday to prepare for that. Yeah, Kelly, one of our coworkers, hopped on, and she also just mentioned the unpacking of the films. I think, Louise, you and I unpacking the film. So much information and wisdom. We also had a comment from Kelsey. I enjoyed learning about the goal for equity in education. As a special educator, I love this. So that is awesome. That's great to hear from you guys all watching. Awesome.
So cool. Awesome. Yeah, so yesterday our focus was on the importance of quality education. What is it? Why is it significant? We learned that quality education is important because it has the power to change people's lives and to develop both character and competency. We realized that this doesn't change no matter where you are. And I love being a part of an organization that's passionate about character formation, real life transformation, and recognizing that all of us, to the smallest child in Rwanda, they matter. And so, yeah, we learned so much yesterday. Such a great day to be a part of, and we've got more today. But what else did we learn yesterday, Louise?
Well, one of the things Jason and I talked about is the three pillars. I called it a three-legged stool, but our investment in parents, teachers, and leaders. And we're going to be joined in a minute by a good friend of Wellspring and mine and talk a little bit more about the pillar of leadership. But Jason and I, we're going to, like, later at 3 o'clock Ontario time, which is noon in the West Coast, we're going to see some more great films. Today we're going to focus on how do we overcome the barriers that keep kids from getting a quality education and really, really learning and being able to capture and hold on to that transformative power of learning. So that's what we're up to today. We're talking about how we overcome barriers to enable kids to really, truly learn and be all that they can be, reach their full potential. Before we jump into that conversation with our friend Chris Wignall, if you don't know, he's joining us in just a moment. We want to hear a little bit about the practicalities of yesterday. So, Jason, I think you're the one with the most up-to-date facts about how we're doing in raising the funds that we're trying to raise so that we can do this amazing work. Can you give us a bit of an update on that?
Yeah, for sure. I touched on it a little bit earlier, and I don't know if it was when I was muted or not, but we have an overall goal, financial target for these 4 days of Stay Home Gala of $250,000. And you may have heard yesterday as well, and I think I mentioned it earlier, that we do have a match for up to $100,000. So as of this morning, as we started to live stream, we were at 25%. We've reached 25% of that. So if I do some quick math, yeah, we're in the 60-ish, high 60s thousands there. So we're right on track to hit that target if giving continues the way that it is. And out of the match funds that are available, there are $69,000 left of match funding. So the next $69,000 that are given, if you give, your donation is doubled. So it's a great start. It's a great start. Got you back up there,
What about the
Louise. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah? What about Christy? What's going on over there?
Oh, silent auction. We have currently, I just checked the figures. We've currently raised $9,791. So way to go, everybody who's been a part of it. If you haven't yet, we've still got many items out there for you to bid on or to buy now. It's been great to watch all the activity and some of the jesting going back and forth. As was mentioned yesterday, our Soapstone Chess Set is doing really great. There's been a lot of back and forth on it, and I think one of the reasons is because it's so unique. This chess set actually features African animals as the chess pieces, which I think is so cool. So definitely a priceless item. It's worth it. It's an heirloom piece. You'll take it with you for the rest of your life. So a great investment. So I encourage you guys to continue bidding that one up. We also have a beautiful self-care spa set that's been donated. And yeah, if you're almost out of shampoo and conditioner during this COVID-19 quarantine, this is a great item because you can restock as well as contribute to Wellspring. So there you go. That's a tip from me. Also, in our Buy It Now section, we have hand woven storage baskets. These are stunning. Pictures do not do them justice. They are beautifully handcrafted. And Mom, if you're watching this, I definitely think you should buy one of those. So there's your tip. And for the rest of us, it looks actually like Andy is back in the lead for our Yale Historic Site Pass. And so there was a bit of competition and jesting yesterday on that one, and someone needs to bump him up, right? Like he needs to pay.
And
so
I saw Yale engaged. They were jumping on, I think, on social media saying, "Yeah, great, thanks for the feature." So they're quite engaged to see what's happening there as well. Kelly has just let us know that we're actually up to $9,801 right now, which is
perfect.
Great. And Jeff Heath, who you guys have been hearing a lot about, he wants the inside scoop on the Whistler package. So what is going? There's 3 people battling it out there. Do you know what is happening with the Whistler package? Maybe you can let us know. Oh, here we go. Yeah, tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a sealed bid item. So let me just look here. We have 2 bids so far, and basically Kelly equated it yesterday to buying a house where you put your bid in and you don't know if there's competition, what their bid is going to be, but the highest bid will win. And so we encourage you to be generous, both bid on what you consider the value, but also maybe be a bit generous and just go for it. This 2-night Whistler retreat includes a large condo with apparently a sauna in the downstairs, which is fantastic. And it also includes 2 passes to Scandinave spas, their baths, as well as 2 passes for a zipline adventure in Whistler. So a great item and a great family adventure or something to do with friends. So yeah, we'd love to see more sealed bids on that one.
Awesome. Thank you, Christy. I believe we are jumping in with Chris. Is that right, Louise?
Yeah, I think Christy will just deviate a little bit from our original plan because we've talked about some of those things already that are in that next section. And I want to just do a shout out to some of our folks who spoke yesterday, some of our partners and key donors. We heard some great partner moments yesterday from Jerry and Shirley and from Blair. And we just need to give a shout out to a very special partner who's having a very special day today. And you can meet this young man. I just said that, Alan. I said young man. You can meet this young man later today. Alan Lambshed. He's going to be joined by his wife, Donna, and they're going to be live 3 p.m. EST. That's at noon out in the West Coast. And they're going to share their story of Wellspring. And we just want to say to you today, Alan, a very happy birthday. I think it's a really big one. And, you know, it has a number in it, like 7 and some zeros. And so we just want to say to you, happy birthday, and thank you for leaving a legacy of your life through your investment in Wellspring. And you are just a special friend to us. So happy birthday to you. And you can catch Alan and Donna later on today. Now I'm going to invite in another really special partner to Wellspring. And this is a good friend of mine, but also to Wellspring. When I joined Wellspring, I was just so enthusiastic to find that Chris Wignall was a member of the board here. And Chris, we've known each other for do we even want to say how long back since we served together at Ontario Pioneer Camp when we were young people. And I've just watched your influence and your leadership capacity grow and grow. You are an integral part of the charity sector in Canada and specifically in Ontario. And I just appreciate the way you live your life full of authenticity and vulnerability. And you're just a real person and with a passion to come alongside and support leaders in the charity sector to be the best people they can be. So welcome to you. We're so glad you're here today.
Thank you. It's this is fun. I've never been to the Vancouver Gala, which is, I know, a big event. So this for me is what that is. So this is kind of cool.
Yeah, so great. Well, we wanted Chris to talk about one thing today. Why don't you just tell folks?
Yeah, I didn't hear your question totally. Sorry, Louise, can you say that again?
Yeah, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. So my title is I'm the executive director of a thing called the Catalyst Foundation. But what that really means, if you ask my kids, they would say, Dad helps people who help people. But really what that means is I get to come alongside of charity leaders locally here in Southern Ontario, nationally and sometimes internationally, and just challenge and encourage them, come alongside as a partner in their process of leadership. And sometimes we provide funding to go with that. But a lot of it is just being that encouraging voice for leaders and teams and organizations and boards.
So you work with a number of charities.
I do.
Can
Yeah,
I jump in
lots
here
of
for a
charities.
sec, guys? I'm not sorry. It sounds. I think we have a bit of an audio issue for you, Louise. There's a bit of feedback. I'm not 100% sure what's happening there. I don't know if maybe someone's watching a live stream, maybe on another device, or have that going. But there is a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I think it's you, Louise. So, do you want to take a minute just try to figure that out? And Chris,
I'm
going
to pick up from there.
Yeah,
sure. Where
sure.
she was going with that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So Louise was commenting that I have the privilege of working with lots of different charities and leaders and teams and boards. But the only one that I currently serve as a director on is Wellspring. And that's because I've been on boards in the past for different organizations, have enjoyed that work, but had taken kind of a break from doing director stuff because many of the boards I'd been on had really been in hard times. And I hadn't for a long time been on a board that was a healthy board functioning well for a healthy organization that I could really get behind. And so I happened to be out in BC and met up with Andy Harrington for lunch. He's a buddy, and we got talking about all sorts of things. And I was just sharing with him, you know, as he talked about the good things that were happening at Wellspring, I said, wow, like if I could be on a board of an organization that was doing that remarkable work and was also really functioning well with one another, that would be pretty cool. And Andy got a certain twinkle in his eye that some of you have probably seen. And a few months later, I was a member of the board. I've been on for 2 years now, and I really enjoy it. The board are really great people. They care about Wellspring an enormous amount. They're a lot of fun, and there's great wisdom in the room when we're dealing with issues, and sometimes they're challenging. But I can look, you know, across the table, or sometimes I join remotely, and I'm just really privileged to see the quality of insight and the quality of people that I get to hang around with when the board meets. Louise, are you good now?
I think it's better. Is it better?
You're still a bit echoey. That's okay. I'm going to hop in for 1 sec because, you know, you mentioned something really interesting there, Chris. And I feel like I said this to, I'm going to split screen, so I'm on the screen with you. I said this to Louise a little bit earlier. I feel like I know you from stalking you on social media, which is not totally true. I've met you face to face at Lake to Lake. I'm wearing my Lake to Lake tent shirt when you came out a couple of years ago, and obviously a friend of yours on social, and we've interacted a little bit. But really, I kind of know you from what I see up on the screen and things that you're posting, and you are not afraid to engage in some of those big issues and to start talking about them. And just recently seeing a post where someone shared something that maybe you hadn't thought about, and you go, yeah, heck, this is a pretty diverse, complex thing. So I think I am really confident that who I see on screen is who you are. And I really appreciate, thinking back to a few years ago, the care that you have for staff. So since you've been on the board, the way that you have stepped in the times when you've been needed and looking after us has been huge. So I know that you've talked about the other board members and the wisdom in the room, but I think you bring a lot of that as well. So just want to affirm you in that, and just thank you so much for your service to us in that way.
Oh, that's kind.
I'm going to bring. Go ahead. Sorry.
My whole career has been involved in different aspects of the charity sector, whether it was working at camp, church, and in all of that work, I have a real heart both for the work that Wellspring does and for the people who do it. I haven't yet had the privilege of being in Rwanda and seeing the work that we're doing face to face and directly for myself. So I catch some of the passion and some of the excitement and joy behind it from our staff here in Canada, as well as from the videos and the updates that we all get. And we have a really good team. We have people who work really hard, but laugh a lot and bring great skills to what they do. So it's really an excellent thing. Today we're talking about overcoming barriers, and we're struggling with some barriers technologically today, so maybe that's fitting. But I was thinking about how that impacts me. My mom was a special ed teacher, and actually was an award-winning special ed teacher when I was growing up. And so maybe I have a soft spot for the challenge of helping kids and communities to deal with the hard stuff. And so when I look at what Wellspring does, I look at this really still pretty young and pretty small organization that somehow has figured out how to influence not just the schools and the leaders that we touch directly, but working with the whole education system in a country on the other side of the world, and to become an important voice in helping the teachers and the families and the schools and the educational leaders of Rwanda to overcome some of their barriers. So the chance to just play a small part of that as a board member and as a donor, that's really a privilege.
Thanks, Chris. We've got Louise back, so I'll just see how everything's going here. Louise, you're smiling now. I'm going to put you on the screen as well, Louise, so at least we'll see you. There we go. You and Chris are split now on the screen.
All right. Well, let me know if this audio is better. I've dropped the call and then called back in again, and it doesn't seem to be echoing on my side. So
no, it sounds way better. You're a touch quiet, but maybe that's just how you talk. That's all.
Yeah, I'll just use my teacher voice and project a little bit more. I was able to hear a lot of that. And Chris, I just thank you for bringing it back to the experience of that student in the classroom and recognizing how we need to reach every single child, right? No matter what their specific needs are. And Blair talked about that so eloquently yesterday as well. I know one of the things that you're passionate about, and just forgive me if you covered some of this while I was sort of gone there, but I know you're really passionate about developing leaders, and that's been integral to our vision as an organization as well. We spend a huge chunk of our relational investment time investing in government leaders at the regional level, in school-based leaders. We call them principals and vice principals here in Canada, but in Rwanda they have another name. But and you're really passionate about leaders too. We actually have a part of Wellspring's sort of history and story that is really compelling. I think Wellspring has a vision for multiplication, and I appreciate that about the work that we do. We have birthed and grown and launched more than one ministry or organization out of our parent organization. We talk about the Wellspring School, which is fully functional now, a K-12 school running in Kigali, but also the Abundant Leadership Institute is another key part of what has been Wellspring for the last number of years. And we were so excited to announce in March the launch and birth of ALI into its own organization. And ALI has invested in educational leaders and business leaders and ministry leaders across Rwanda and beyond. And we were just so excited to launch that out this past month, and to continue and watch them continue to invest in a broad spectrum of leaders across Africa, and to see them do that so successfully. So we're going to hear a little bit more about ALI when we hear from Alan and Donna a little later today. But Chris, my question as we close this section to you is, when you think about charity leadership, and we didn't plan this question, so we're just going to kind of go with it. When you think about charity leadership and you think about Wellspring and the things that drew you to serving in this environment, what are those leadership characteristics or qualities that you feel have been really influential to helping us develop into a healthy organization? What is it about leadership that you appreciate and have invested your life in helping people to grow? And so talk a little bit about leadership, and then we'll
that's great. I think when I'm around Andy, I just see somebody who needs so much coaching and advice, right? He just has so much need. No, you know what? I think leadership is always essential. I think it's important. I think organizations that are not led well, and by well, I mean healthy. It's not just about being able to drive and work hard. It's about being able to be a person who knows where their deep core is and can operate out of that. An organization that recognizes that we get results when we have a culture where people are passionate and work hard, but also where they enjoy one another. One of the things that I have loved about Wellspring is that there is a culture of celebration, that when good things happen, we pause and we say, hey, this is really good. We had an event last fall here in Ontario where you introduced us to the Fanta and the idea of when something great happens that we can pretend to open a can of orange soda and toast one another, or in that case we really did open the cans of orange soda and share a toast towards the staff in Rwanda. That for me is the sign of an organization that has the potential to do what it's doing and more. When that's really a part of it. So we've grown leaders within the organization, and we're in a place where we are, even as Abundant Life Leadership Institute is spilling out and doing their own thing, growing in a new direction, we are investing in leaders. The first thing we do when we get into a community is work with the leaders of the school and the community. And that, I think, is a big part of why we're able to do so much for the students, because the leaders are on board. They get it. They understand and they care.
Yeah, that's so true. And Jason, just tell me if my audio is bad, because I have a poor connection showing up on my screen here. But I'm new to Wellspring, and I've super enjoyed that very thing you're talking about. And you mentioned two things there. You mentioned trust and empowerment, more than two. You talked about working in your passion, or the zone of your passion. We talked about celebrating the fruit of our investment. And I've experienced that over here on the Canada side, thanks to our great board and leadership here, including Andy, but I also see it on the other side. And both sides of the ocean have been through leadership transitions, and those can often bring an organization to ruin. But I have seen on both sides of the ocean, with those leadership transitions, the organization continue to grow, to thrive, to take risks, to reach out, and to have ever-increasing impact. And I just want to acknowledge our great board members, and I know you're one, so a specific thank you to you, but many of you are watching and listening, and a healthy board that trusts each other, that laughs together, that supports the core leaders and empowers people to do their work. It doesn't always happen, right? We've been in churches where it didn't happen, and we've been in organizations where it didn't happen. So just really thankful to be able to serve a big vision under really healthy leaders. And Chris, you're a big part of that for us because it's your life calling. And so
I hesitate to speak on behalf of the board because we haven't had this conversation, but I just know how much the board love what all of our staff on both sides of the ocean do. We feel pretty spoiled, pretty blessed to be a part of the great stuff that's going on. So I wish you the very best over the rest of these couple of days as you share amazing stories about an organization that's doing really cool stuff. Thanks for letting me come and play.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming and part of our team.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Really enjoyed having you. Thanks for bearing with us through those bits, and thank you for the funny joke too. That was great. Andy is watching, and he does say that he is very needy, and that's his need for you. So he's not sure what he would do without you. So thanks so much for joining us, Chris.
Take care, everybody. Be well.
Bye. All right, Lou. I think Christy. I think we're hearing from Christy now. Is that right?
Yeah. Woohoo! Am I on?
You are on full screen. Christy Voth, just you. Yeah.
Wow. Well, just want to say thank you to both Chris and Louise. That was incredible. We are so thankful to have these supporters as part of our family. Amazing partners, and so thankful for everyone who plays a part in this incredible work. We want to introduce you before we take a coffee break. Just before we do that, we have another couple who we have come to love and appreciate so very much. They came on our vision trip just over a year ago, and it all started, I'm going to give you a bit of backstory here that's not included in their recording, but when Bill and Diane Cornies were invited to be part of our Lake to Lake Ride for Rwanda. This is a 2-day fundraising bike ride that we have in the Okanagan. They decided to sign up, and then they realized that they should probably buy some bikes. So they purchased 2 mountain bikes and rode 10 kilometers to prepare for the ride. For any of you who have ridden Lake to Lake before, myself included, you can anticipate how challenging this must have been for them, having only trained 10 kilometers. But they made it, they did it, and they had a great time. And they were sore for about a week afterwards as they recovered. And yet this did not deter them. It actually planted a seed that eventually grew into them joining us on our vision trip. So they came this last year. I had the privilege of facilitating the trip, and I had the privilege of watching both Bill and Diane come alive as they interacted and engaged with the children that we met along the way. And Diane is a veteran teacher. She'll share about that in their film coming up. But it was incredible to watch as she would gather the children wherever we went, and she would engage them in playing fun learning games, touching their heads and their toes and their knees, and flying and stopping and pausing and jumping and closing their eyes and opening them, and just pulling them in and getting them to come alive and explode with laughter and giggles and smiles. And so was she. It was incredible to watch and behold. And they say once a teacher, always a teacher. And that's definitely true for Diane. And anywhere you go, right? Once a teacher, always a teacher. And so it was awesome to watch her live even more into her calling and into her gifting. And I asked them to describe the vision trip in one word, and they said transformational. And it truly was transformational as we watched them engage in the journey. And so I'm excited to share this partner moment with you all this morning, a couple that is close to my heart. And so, yeah, Jason, if you can cue the film, that would be wonderful.
Hi, we're Bill and Diane Cornies from Vernon, BC. And about a year and a half ago, Diane came home one day and said she'd like to go to Africa. And I thought, well, Hawaii's 6 hours that way, Africa's 20 some hours that way. I said, why would you want a holiday in Africa? And she said, well, I'd like to go and see what Wellspring does. And we've been kind of involved with Wellspring over the past 10 or so years with bike rides and galas, so we know what they do. And I thought, well, why do we want to go there? Anyways, we went about a year ago, last February, and it was a long trip, and they actually gave us a day to recover when we got there. And the second day we were into there seeing what Wellspring does. And we spent a day at the Wellspring campus where we saw the teachers and the staff from Wellspring as well as the students. And I was just, I have no educational background, but I couldn't believe the enthusiasm of everyone involved, from the parents to the teachers to the students, and it was amazing to see. Then over the next 3 or 4 days, we got to go to see some of the school districts that Wellspring has been invited to work in through the government, and these are public schools. So I thought, well, it's going to be a little less of an experience. You have your private school and everybody's on board. But we got into the first public school where Wellspring had been involved for about 5 years, and it was amazing to see the teachers, the parents. We met one of the parents on the PAC, a representative. He couldn't speak English, but you could see the pride in his stature, the pride he had in the school, and what the parents had been doing there. They actually had started building more classrooms. So everything is through the parents and the community. There's no input other than training through Wellspring, so it's very sustainable. Then we got to go to another school district where they were just starting, and the same thing. We saw the enthusiasm in the students. They have packed classrooms, 60 plus kids in a classroom, 4 to a desk, and they were so excited to learn. I, as a non-instructor, I'm surrounded by teachers. My daughters are teachers. Our friends are all teachers. So I kind of know what the North American curriculum is and school situations. And to see that over there, it was so different. Everyone is so excited. And one of the Wellspring members had said to me, we'd like to come to North America and see how your schools work. And I just sort of thought, better you just stay there. We'll come see your schools. It's much more uplifting. And we left it at that. So anyways, that's my part of it. It was well worthwhile, not a holiday, but just a real experience for me, for sure. And
and as a teacher of 40 years, I was excited to see what they would be doing in the classroom, and everything I thought that it would be, my thoughts were totally different after seeing what was going on. I couldn't believe the dedication of the teachers that were trained by Wellspring. They had intense teacher training, going back into the classroom with children of anywhere from 60 to 100 children in one classroom, one teacher. And as a teacher in BC for 40 years, I know when I started out, I had about 36 children in my classroom, and that was a lot. Now it goes between 24 and 30, and that's still quite a bit, but nothing like 100 students in the classroom. The children were so well behaved and respectful, and the teachers were respectful. And they had nothing to work with really except for chalk and a chalkboard. And I thought often during the 2 weeks that we were there of how often myself I had complained that there wasn't enough red construction paper for Valentine's Day. And, what was the school coming to? And I went into the supply room and there wasn't what I wanted. And I was very humbled by how these teachers were so creative with what they had, which was basically nothing, but they used the environment around them. The lessons from Wellspring Academy was exactly the same lessons that I had taught in grade 4 through 7 on science, sustainability, environment. What can we do as a community to help our environment? To physics in one of the poorest schools that Wellspring had just started. a year ago, and they were doing a grade 7 physics lesson on force and energy. And I said to the teacher, this is exactly what I did back in BC in Canada. And the children just, you could see in their eyes that they knew education was the key to out of poverty. The parents knew that. The teachers, they would walk an hour to 2 hours each way in some of the schools to get to school to teach these children, and then stay late because there was 2 shifts. They would have a morning and an afternoon shift, and they worked so hard, and they loved the children so much, and it was a safe place for them to learn. There was one story that we were amazed at Wellspring Academy in the first couple of days we were there. We heard the grade 12 students share what they wanted to do once they graduated. And I'll let Bill tell about one fellow that impressed us so much.
Well, he kind of seemed like the class joker, but when they asked him what he was going to do, he wanted to be an engineer so that when he retired, he could sit back and say, I did that building, and I did that building, and I did that building. And again, always coming back to Rwanda, that they don't want to leave the country. They want to get educated, maybe elsewhere or wherever they can get their best education, but they always want to return to Rwanda and advance the country.
They love their country. The country is spectacular. It is so lush and green. The fruit and the vegetables are unbelievable, and the chocolate is really, really good as well. And we love supporting Wellspring because it's a hand up, not a handout. And everybody is empowered. The teachers, the parents are empowered to do the best they can for their children. And that's why we would highly recommend visiting Rwanda for yourself. It changed us. It changed my perspective as a teacher, and also just being so grateful for what we have, but also just to see the love in the teachers' eyes for their students really meant a lot to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is great to hear from Bill and Diane. Christy mentioned them riding the lake to lake a few years ago. And I was helping out at that event, and I remember running into them at the 3rd rest stop on the first day. And yeah, they were having fun. So great to hear from them. We have heard a lot from our North American team, a board member, some partners. We are going to take just a short break. I'm bumping this back a little bit, winging this here. So we're going to come back at 11:15, and I'm really excited for this next session. Normally what happens at our galas, we get a chance to premiere our new films that Jeff has shot for us in front of hundreds of people. And of course, we're not doing that in-person gala. We're doing the stay-home gala. So we're going to premiere one of our films after the break. I'm excited for you guys to see that. Yeah, so we're going to come back at 11:15 Pacific, 2:15 Eastern. And yeah, I'm really excited. So go grab yourself a cup of something. Yeah, and we will see you back shortly. I'm putting a timer up. I'm going to have to edit it because it thinks I'm coming back at 11. So I'm going to tweak that as that pops up. But we'll see you back at 11:15, 2:15 Eastern. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk again soon. Welcome back to Stay Home Gala. We're on day 2, and our topic today is overcoming barriers to quality education. If you've been with us for the start of the day, you've seen that we've been overcoming some barriers just technologically here. So we're going to take a look at, we are going to be taking a look at, the barriers that students are facing in Rwanda, but also going to talk a little bit about barriers just in general to quality education, and looking at what's happening here in North America now in light of COVID-19 and people having to go online to learn as well. So Louise is going to be here in just a minute, and we're going to talk through some of that. One of the things I wanted to touch on, though, and just announce to you guys is we are having a draw. And so when you make a donation, your name is entered into this draw. And at the end of the gala, we are going to be drawing 5 names. Each of those we'll be drawing 5 names, and each will be winning a prize. And prizes are, there's a $100 Indigo gift card, so you can buy some books or games or entertainment, spend that kind of stuff, home decor maybe during this time. And there also will be a bag of Rwandan coffee roasted by one of our staff favorite places, Republica Coffee Roasters in Fort Langley. So each of those 5 names drawn, you will be getting that $100 gift card to Indigo, as well as a bag of Rwandan coffee. So if you are donating, there's that extra little perk potentially if your name is drawn at the end of the gala. Great. So I am going to bring on my colleague, Louise Loudoun. You guys, if you've been tracking, you have met her already this morning. She talked a lot yesterday with us as well. She is an educator. She spent some time living in Malawi as well, and it's been fantastic having her as part of our team here in Wellspring. Really excited to bring her back on. Louise, you are live and back. And changed.
Because I was going to change location and everything for us and just give it a fresh look and try and fix my audio. But here we are. We're here, and I'm just glad to be together with you, Jason, and we get to really hear today from some of our staff in Rwanda. So if you're listening now, you're going to hear a little bit from us on the Canadian side, but really we want to give a profile to our Rwandan staff as they talk about the barriers to education in the children and communities that they love. And as we jump into this right now, I just have 2 challenges that I want to issue out to our community just to engage with us. Well, if you're a parent of kids, then we're just curious to hear about your experience and how it's going. How is it going in your homes as you pivot to try and help your child learn in an environment that is less than ideal? And for many of you, I imagine it's a struggle because there's so many distractions and you're distracted and you've got to manage 3 different kids who are maybe doing 3 different levels of learning and just without the resources or the time or maybe even the energy, and your kids might lack the motivation and they might get cranky because they're hungry or they'd rather be doing something else. And so what's it like for you? How's it going in the educational world that you're living in? And I just want us to think about this slight environmental change that's happened for so many of our Canadian students and the impact that it's having on them in terms of their motivation and their engagement and their ability to learn. And yet we have all the resources at our fingertips, don't we? We can jump online and they can watch a cool video to teach them how to do a math concept if they're going to Khan Academy, or they can head on over to the Vancouver Aquarium or the Toronto Museum of Art and, see some really cool things. Can you imagine having to face tremendous environmental challenges and not have those resources? And so we know that real learning requires a number of key things to be in place. It's actually a complex kind of task, isn't it, Jason, to be at a place where you are ready to learn. What's it been like at your house? You homeschool, so your kids are used to sort of a flow at home, but things have changed even for them, haven't they?
Yeah, my sort of quick answer to people, and maybe I'll hop on the screen here with this. My sort of quick answer to people is that our lives haven't really changed that much for my family. We homeschool. We have 4 kids. 8 through 14 birthdays are coming, so that'll be changing. But Yeah, and I work from home. I work remotely. I'm in Salmon Arm, BC, in the interior, and my wife, Cindy, works part time. She's an occupational therapist within our school district. I think I mentioned that yesterday, and having to, yeah. Anyway, so homeschool mom for most of that, and yeah, but they are spending a lot more time online now with some of the stuff that they are doing. They're even though we homeschool, there is a teacher that oversees the homeschooling process. So I've been in contact with some of that. So yeah, it's just been different, and I think a great reminder for people, and maybe I'm winging it now a little bit here, and maybe going slightly off topic, but a great reminder for parents who have kids at home now, and you're trying to deal with, like, a kid doesn't need to be learning from 8 till 3, right? Homeschool, really, with our kids, there's between an hour to maybe 2 hours where they're really diligently working on something at the most, and the rest, like, where our kids sleep in and they take breaks and they go outside, and learning is more than just that concentrated time. What would typically be sitting in the classroom, like, everything kind of becomes a learning opportunity, which has been great. So I don't know if that answers your question, Louise, but yeah, I think with kids at home now, you've got to just do things differently, not have the expectations. You will burn out. A friend said the other day, 3 kids in school have to have a half an hour meeting with each of the teachers for each of the kids. That's an hour and a half now. And then they've got to go through everything else. And she just said, you know what? I'm just doing it myself. I'm not even going to, worry about it, because it's just too overwhelming at times. Right. So it's different for a lot of people right now here, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is too, and I think that what I want us to reflect on is the complexity of creating an environment where kids can thrive, where kids can learn, and you can do that at home when you're devoted to doing that at home as your kind of full-time engaged job. But for most of us, we can't do that, or we don't choose to do that, and so the school environment and all of the things that circle around that individual school become really, really important. And so the second challenge, I said I had 2 things I wanted our audience to think about. One, how your shift and watching the people around you shift in trying to learn during COVID-19 isolation is impacting the learning. And then the second thing is, as you turn your attention to Rwanda with us, which we're going to do for the next half hour or so, what do you think is the greatest barrier that keeps kids from really learning? And we're just going to ask you to think about, what would you identify? Throw some things into the chat there. If you're watching this later and you're not part of our live stream, if there's a capacity for you to chat there, do it. If you're watching it on Facebook or you're seeing a post on Facebook, join us in that conversation. What do you think is the most significant barrier that a child in Rwanda might face as they try to learn and grow? And we're going to explore that with you today. And the first thing we're going to do to explore that actually is not from me. It's from one of our quality education trainers. Her name is Marie-Jeanne. And in fact, she works with educators, but what her specific role is on our team is to work with our community leaders. So she works with the leaders of the parent committees. Every school has a parent committee that's part of the structure and system in Rwanda. And it's supposed to help parents to engage in the process of supporting schools and supporting their children in learning. But as you're going to hear, it's not working all the time and in every school. And Marie-Jeanne is a respected community leader and educator in her own right. And when she goes into a community, she's often known. She has a reputation of both integrity and the capacity to really offer some meaningful coaching and training for people. Marie-Jeanne's going to explore some of the barriers that Rwandan children in general, we're not going to focus in, but in general, what keeps them from learning. So if you're listening, and maybe you're multitasking, but if you're listening, I would love for you to just try and listen. How many barriers does she identify? So as she talks to us, and you'll see subtitles on the screen, see if you can count to yourself just how many things that she lists out and explores with us about why kids struggle to learn sometimes in Rwanda. So let's turn it over to Marie-Jeanne.
Hello everybody, my name is Marie-Jeanne Muteshimana, one of Wellspring Quality Education Trainers in Rwanda, specifically in the Gasabo team. Today, I'm going to tell you some of the barriers to quality education in Rwanda. In spite of many initiatives our government with development partners working in education have undertaken, there are still some barriers that hinder some Rwandan children from accessing quality education. One of those barriers is parents' low level of understanding. Some parents still deny their children the right to accessing quality education because they say not all the people who are rich went to school, and they even refuse to pay their school fees or give them the school materials. They can even say, I am your parent, I didn't go to school, and I support my family. Getting rich is not because of education, but it is a blessing from God. There's also another problem, which is home or gender-based violence. Some children live in families which are divorced or separated due to different reasons, or whose members are living in permanent conflicts. This has a very negative impact on the education of children, and sometimes it leads them to dropping out of school. Another barrier that I can talk about is the school conditions. Some schools don't have enough infrastructure or equipments, and they don't even have enough resources to teach children. You can even find schools which have more than 100 children. In that situation, you can't say that children are accessing quality education, because a teacher has a lot to do to satisfy those kids, which is very difficult to him or to her. There are also gender norms. In some families, girls' education is not as valued as that of boys. Girls are still considered to be helpers in household activities like cooking, cleaning, fetching firewood, fetching water, looking after younger siblings, and so on. This limits their time to engage in their studies, which creates imbalances in the education of girls and boys. Another big problem that hinders the quality of education in our country, it is teenage pregnancies. Some girls fall pregnant because of poor living conditions in families and family breakups. For others, it is because of the ignorance of the parents. Because when these little girls give birth, some parents refuse to allow them to continue to go to school, and they stop their schooling. There are also stereotypes about children living with disabilities. Some of the families with children with disabilities don't give them the chance to go to school. They consider them as invalid and unable to learn. And when these kids access mainstream schools and teachers do not have the competence and resources to attend to their learning needs. When they do not perform to the level of their peers because of lack of support, it confirms that they are not able. There are also poor living conditions at home. Some families cannot afford school materials such as books, pens, bags, and so on. Some of them cannot even find food and depend on the school feeding program for their survival. This affects their education considerably. Briefly, these are some of the barriers to quality education in our schools, but the government is working hard to remove them. Thank you.
Okay, so as you watched and listened to that video, what did you hear? What did you hear about the struggles that many children face in their ability to truly learn and be changed and develop character and competencies through education? We're just going to give you a chance to comment in the chat. My first question was, what do you think are the barriers? And now you've heard some of them. How many did you hear? What did you hear? Jason, let's turn it over to you. Like, from what you heard Marie-Jeanne say, what strikes you out of that list that she just shared with us as interesting or important? Yeah, that's so true. And why don't you, maybe you could check the stream, see if anyone has offered any comment to us. And I'll just share one observation that I also
Sorry,
think is
Louise,
powerful.
I've muted myself again, and I was waxing eloquently about how wonderful with being muted. I am sorry. So Louise had just asked me what stood out to me in that video, and I was just mentioning how my wife is an occupational therapist. I think I've mentioned this. So the idea of inclusive education. So Marie-Jeanne had talked about children with disabilities being in the classroom, and there becomes an assumption when they're not learning that the teachers have an assumption that those students essentially it's not working and they aren't learning, which is not necessarily the case. We know that everyone has different learning styles, and so there's that part already. And now throw in some type of disability, whether that's something is, and it's not simple, but it may be more common of having a vision issue and you need to be closer to the chalkboard. It could be something like that. So Cindy obviously is working in our school district with students who have different challenges. And so, yeah, I think just being for teachers to realize that, it's not that those students can't learn, they just need to learn in a different way. And there's those kinds of challenges. And so she was mentioning that teachers just, it confirms their assumptions, but I don't think that's correct. So that's one of the challenges that stood out to me anyways.
And I think assumptions are so powerful. I've experienced that as an educator myself. When I look out into my classroom of students, I can easily, without even realize it, implicitly apply some kind of bias or some kind of filter where I make assumptions about, that one, or that one, or that one. And it's just a constant effort to remove those scales from my eyes and allow every child to thrive. And I like how Marie-Jeanne talked about the role of parents again. And maybe some of you might be surprised to hear that parents may not value education in the way we would expect them to value it. That is a difference between our country here and perhaps some other places in the world where parents might say, you don't have to have an education to be rich. There isn't necessarily a connect because there are stories of people, and we have it here too, who experience great success in the business world but didn't yet go to school. And then there's also the assumption, well, I didn't go to school, and I'm fine, and you don't need to go to school, so it's not valued. And I'm not sure that is a Rwandan challenge. Doesn't that work for us here in Canada too? That if we have vision for our kids and what they could do with their lives and who they could be, then we set our expectations for how they will invest in themselves. And so often, if even here you have parents that didn't go to post-secondary, and it isn't necessarily talked about at the family, as part of the family ethos, that you will do this, or you could do this, or, Sally, you could be an engineer, or Bill, you should explore ballet. And I am purposely drawing on some very dramatic stereotypes here, but assumptions about a child's potential. And it's we parents who really are the guardians of that have a powerful impact on whether a child is successful in school or not. Jason, are there any comments that we can acknowledge just in the chat about barriers that our audiences might have identified?
Yeah, there's just one here. My hope is, and this is Louise, one of our coworkers. But my hope is that students around the world, as they navigate some more barriers than usual when it comes to education, will develop more empathy through this experience. So she's thinking in light of her own children, who now are having to learn from home, and there's all different kinds of distractions. But that it would, help them develop empathy. Another comment just popped up on, this is Karen McCullough. The lack of jobs when they graduate only compounds this problem. Yeah.
That's so true. I was with one of our partners, Janice Ryder. She did a wonderful event in Parry Sound. And Janice, you're going to hear a partner moment from Janice later on. And we had an event for International Women's Day, and we discussed that very thing. What do we do when we have an educated child, but there is no insufficient infrastructure societally for them to find meaningful employment? And that can be a demotivator for people. So Karen, just really appreciate acknowledging that, it's not just one piece. It's the development of a healthy society, which is healthy economically, healthy politically, healthy socially, and all of those pieces kind of form the web and the fabric that creates like lifelong purpose, right? And ways for us to integrate meaningfully and to serve. So you're absolutely right about that. I think some of the things we heard there from Marie-Jeanne might be known to some of our viewers. We know that if a child is impoverished and is coming to school hungry, that they are not going to be able to learn. Doesn't matter where they live. That's why school feeding programs are such an integral part of what Wellspring does with our parent communities and our school leaders, is to make sure that children are first have a full belly. She talked about coming from places where there's conflict. And we know that if a child is under stress at home, or there's a lot of tension in their environment, that there's this buzz in their head and they just can't bring the mental energy they need to the learning activity. And learning takes a lot of energy and focus. And we know that if students are coming to a school where there are inadequate resources, then it is going to be very hard for them to dig into the concepts, especially as the grades go up and the ideas that you need to learn are more and more complex. And we know that the environment of safety and engagement, we talked about this yesterday, where we have a caring, empathetic teacher who has appropriate boundaries and knows how to discipline in a positive way, is skilled in their craft, that if those pieces are absent, then students can't thrive in their learning. Marie-Jeanne also talked about the specific challenges that girls face in their education. And this is something also very close to our heart at Wellspring. We care about all children. And it doesn't mean, well, as we shift now to talk about the story of the girl child or the girl student, that we favor that over the boy child. Not at all the case. We care about all children. And in fact, in our Vision 2020, looking forward, we have a specific emphasis on including those students who don't have the same learning needs as other students, or learning capabilities as other students, just like you talked about, Jason. But we're going to pause for a moment. We're going to just focus in on the particular experience of girls in Rwanda. And, you know, Rwanda is a really, really fabulous place. They have done so much already to move the gender equity reality forward. In fact, more than many other nations in Africa, Rwanda has achieved some things that other countries haven't achieved. Gender parity in parliament. They are the leading nation around the world, you may not know this, that has equal representation within their parliamentary system of men and women, and they've been recognized internationally for that fact. Dr. Emmanuel and I are currently doing some work on gender equity together with our country director, Libby, and we've really been delving into the most recent studies. You know, the Rwandan government has enacted a number of really excellent policies whose aim is to bring gender equity alive and make it a reality for girls, not just at the primary system, but in secondary and, of course, in tertiary education, where they can become leaders, become teachers, become businesswomen who are contributors in our society. So at the policy level, this is a value that is owned by governments and leaders. But what we're going to hear in just a moment over the next two films that we're going to watch is that while it lives at the policy level, it doesn't often translate into the lives of young girls and women, particularly in the rural areas of Rwanda. So let me stop talking about it. I want you to hear from Beatrice, this powerhouse of a woman who I was able to meet in August. Just love this lady. You're going to hear from her in a very candid, raw conversation right now that she's having. She's going to talk to us and share with us her heart for women and girls in the country of Rwanda. So enjoy what Beatrice has to say in her storytelling next.
My dream here as Beatrice, as a Wellspring trainer, is to support the school, is to help the school. One, how can I support the school to keep training these parents? Two, to keep working even with these students. My dream is to work with the students closer, from P5 or from P4, it's better P4, P5, and P6. I feel I can even shift from my home and be nearby so that I can have frequent talk with those students and increase their hope and show them that they have good life there in front. They have good life once they continue to learn. They have good life once they keep to be consistent in keeping their lives. So my dream, my other dream is also to work with the girls. That's my better dream, my best dream. I feel I can have a time, sufficient one, to tell them how they can keep their life, how they don't have any prostitution. You see, a P5 or P6 child, when girls are reach at that level, they feel that there's no need of continuing learning.
So what do they do?
You see, at this area, there is a system of polygamy. Men feel that they are better. They have to take any lady, and at this age, at the earlier age of students, they feel that they can leave the school. You see? Yeah. The life will be different because, first of all, they will be understanding how important they are. One. Secondly, these girls will understand that they are the mother of the country. They can educate the nation. Before educating that nation, they can keep safe themselves. They can feel more confident of being a lady, a mother of the country. And then none of man can come and try to play with them, with their personality, with their strength. Yet they are strong. So they have that ignorance, and that's why all those men or all those boys play with their life and waste their life, waste their time, their life, their strength. I think with the girls, the change can be. If they understood, if they know what to do, if they get those training consistently, I think this can change. I feel very sad to see the half of students afford the secondary. Yet the big number, if you go in classes, you can find that the big number of students are girls at the area classes at the lower level. But the more you go, the more they go in P5, P6, girls are so few because of that one. I think girls can be helped to take decision and to be firm because they are strong also. Yeah.
What an impactful video that is, to really hear Beatrice's heart, because she knows those girls personally. They're part of her life, they're part of her community, and hearing her heart about her dream to bring hope and to bring empowerment specifically to girls who are struggling to see their worth and to realize their potential, to develop confidence enough in themselves and in a future that they have agency over their own choices. That heartbeat that you just caught right there is at the center of what we do, and our desire to bring hope and to bring empowerment to the young women and the young men that Beatrice is talking about. And so with that, we want to share with you and finish our time really with a larger piece of work that Jeff Heath has put together for us. This is a brand new film that we want to release today for you to enjoy, that really tries to capture that heart of Wellspring's work and how our investment in education helps girls and boys to overcome those barriers that Beatrice and Marie-Jean have talked about. And so stick with us as you watch. If you caught Jeff last night, you heard his experience about making the film. Now let's enjoy the fruit of his labor and his vision and really hear about Wellspring's investment and how it helps children overcome these barriers and really become people who can thrive and live into their full potential.
Here at GS Buringo, in primary school, we have 1,232 students in primary. In secondary, it's quite half of that number. It is 627 students.
The first purpose of P6 exams is to evaluate learners, to determine their level of performance, where they are since they have completed this level of education. So what have they taken from that level?
But those who do well, they work very well, excellently. They go in very good schools, like in boarding school, like different schools which are very better.
Others will have to go to 9 and 12-year basic education schools, and then others may end up just going to the streets.
Those are students who go to grow cabbages. One. Those are students who go to get a car. Those are people who get pregnancy at every age. Those are people who their life is worse.
Yeah, the challenge I face is it's quite a big number of students. To ensure that I'm reaching every child, it's not easy.
In the class, you may find between 40, 60, and other classes, 80 students in the class. It is a challenge. You see, teachers don't know the strategies to use or method to use so that they can teach the big number of students. As a tool of behavior management, they use stick. Because of that, students are disappointed. Imagine you are hungry and then you come to school, and then once you disturb the teacher beats you. As a solution, what do? You leave the class. You drop out.
Yeah, some of other challenges we face includes parents who don't understand why they need to support their children. For example, when we give them homeworks, they don't support, and also they don't have even school materials.
Because many parents think that if you have paid school fees and you have got school uniform and you've given your child school materials and then you've sent them to school, that is enough, and then what is remaining is the role of the teacher and the school to make sure that learners learn well. But they don't understand that their role goes beyond that.
Yeah, Wellspring taught us how to manage learners in classroom, and they taught us that children shouldn't have only knowledge, but also should have values.
Pre-primary teachers didn't know how to use even the curriculum when teaching. But last time we have them, we started with them, and really they gave us feedback which make our hearts very happy. They said, now you see, today now we know how to use these books, yet we had them without knowing how to use them. Now parents understood that they have to work with their children and help them to come to school. Now today they are the ones who push those children to go to school.
Our dream to these children is to give them the knowledge and skills needed so that they can help them to live well in their society.
I believe that every child has a role to play in society. And for anyone to be able to play their role in society effectively, they need to understand what their role is. They need to be able to be equipped with the skills and competences of how to do that. And the only place that can be built, it is in education. And part of the competences of being in society, they need also to develop the heart of loving people and helping them. And then since education is one tool that can help people to be able to achieve that, I believe that every child deserves that.
Well, what a great storytelling opportunity for us just to engage in seeing that and seeing the challenges and hearing right from the mouth of teachers and the things that they are grappling with each and every day in Rwandan classrooms where classes are large and skill sets might be missing, and yet teachers do the best that they can with the tools that they have. But what a privilege it is to come alongside and to strengthen their skills and to put more tools in that toolbox so that when they come to work each day, they can feel like they have they have what it takes to bring it to the class and to bring it to the kids and to work through what you might not know is a brand new curriculum across Rwanda, which was released in 2016, but really is taking a long time to take root in the lives of teachers and leaders as they understand and grapple with the changes. They moved from a knowledge-based learning where everything was rote and it was about information and the teacher at the center and lecturing on the board and copying and regurgitating to something that's more familiar to us in Canada, where they're developing skills and competencies and character, and it's infused with values around dignity and worth, around stewardship and environmentalism, around unity. And it's a huge change for teachers to grapple with and to do that in languages that sometimes is not even their first language. So teachers face many obstacles, but it is our privilege to come alongside and do training and mentoring and coaching and help them to feel really good about what they're contributing to the lives of their students and to see the fruit of that effort and to see students enjoying coming to school and dropout rates declining and kids engaged in the classroom learning, and teachers going home at the end of the day realizing and knowing that they are making a positive difference. That, folks, is a complete paradigm shift, and it's one we have the privilege of being a part of. And I love the ending where we heard from Dr. Emmanuel, who I respect so very much, and how he talked about every child has a role to play in Rwandan society. And he casts out that vision over his nation and says, every child has a role to play in making that nation strong and great in all of its different ways. And every child needs to understand that truth, that the future is in their hands and they are empowered people who can make a tremendous impact and difference. But they also need to know, he said, why and how they can live into that role. They need to understand what their unique contribution can be, and then they need the skills and competencies to be able to do it. And so moving children up from grade 6, which is sort of the primary area, into secondary and into tertiary, starts with this strong foundation. And that's where we invest our time, is building a strong foundation where kids know themselves and they see themselves as learners and they're engaged in that process. And of course, we heard parents coming into that picture, and we've already talked about that today, how pivotal their role is. And then with Chris earlier on, how critical it is that leaders of schools believe in their teachers, develop strong and healthy teams, see themselves as servant leaders who are willing to share the power in order to empower the whole team. Because it does take, as we know, a whole community around one child for them to thrive and live into that potential. And so as Wellspring, this is what we get to be about. We get to be about systemic change and community change. We are about working at the government level and working at the grassroots level. And you need to have influence at that government policy level. And we've been invited there. It's humbling to be there and have part of writing that new curriculum and to sit on working discussion groups. And even now to have our team leading the group of NGOs who are coordinating those radio broadcasts going out over the Rwandan airwaves, to have Wellspring, our small but mighty organization, having an influence as we serve the Rwandan Ministry of Education's vision for quality education. It's important to be at that systemic change level, but really the fruit and joy of our work is at that grassroots level with quality-based training and intensive coaching in strong relationships where we see kids overcoming some of those what might seem insurmountable barriers to take the next step toward being everything that they can be. So education is about empowerment, and that's what Wellspring gets to do. Michelle Obama said that when girls are educated, their countries become stronger and more prosperous. Malala said that we cannot succeed if half the world is held back. And so with a particular focus on girls and now a broad vision to include everybody into the educational experience, this is what we get to do as Wellspring, and this is what we want you to be a part of. So we'd love you to jump on board and join this adventure with us, join this vision through your gifts of time, through your own storytelling, through your own financial investment. It's a worthy cause. And there's so much fruit, and the impact is there. It's measurable. It's real. It's not just storytelling. It's not just cherry picking the best things. You're going to hear later about our program Merit, which measures real, specific, concrete, positive outcomes as a result of our work. And so it's just a joy to share that again with you today. Thank you, Jason, for having me on. And I think it's back to you as we transition to the next segment.
Yeah, thank you so much, Louise, for walking us through that portion. We had a comment here that thank you for your passion in investing in girls and letting them know that they are a precious treasure in the eyes of their amazing Creator God. So it's wonderful. Some great engagement and some comments here. We got a hi from Scotland as well, and on the bottom there. So thank you so much, Louise, and we will talk to you soon. That wraps up our second segment. So thank you for joining with us and engaging with us in our work at this important time. We are taking another break now, and we will be back after. So we're going to be back at about 12:15, and we'll be back at 12:15 Pacific, 3:15 Eastern, and we're going to dig deeper into why quality education is so important on a global scale and in Rwanda. So we're going to be back in about 15 minutes where you can learn more about your part in this story. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Welcome back. In a moment, we're going to give you guys an update on how things are shaping up over at our silent auction and with our marketplace, and how your generosity is making a difference this week as we look at where we are at in trying to reach our target of $250,000. But first, we're going to hear from another couple of partners as they share their personal experience of transformation as their lives have interacted with Rwanda's story. And as you heard Louise mention earlier, the man that you'll hear in this video, Alan, it is his birthday today. It's his 70th. So happy birthday, Alan. And I'm going to get their video up and you'll get a chance to hear right from them.
Go to Rwanda in 2016. We got to spend 2.5 weeks touring the country and also touring some of the work that Wellspring is doing.
We were able to visit the Wellspring Academy, which is a school for JK to grade 12. It was exciting to meet and interact with the senior graduation students. They were in the first class to go all the way through the school. It was great to hear their excitement of all the possibilities of careers ahead of them, and to hear their dreams of the difference they hope to make for their own country.
We were also able to spend a whole day at the ALI, Abundant Leadership Institute class, and to meet the leaders who were there, attending the number of units that they were taking, and to hear the difference that this institute was having not only in their own personal lives, but in the lives of their region and the lives of each of the schools within those regions.
One of the big highlights for us was the opportunity to visit the school that we had been supporting for over 2 years. It was a large school, over 1,000 students from kindergarten all the way up through grade 12. And they had 2 sessions, morning and afternoon for the younger children, and then all day for the high school students. The students were telling us that previously they found that it was not a priority for their families. Education wasn't a priority for their families. So if they didn't go to school, many times the teachers wouldn't show up. And when they did, the teachers would often get angry and harsh with them, and perhaps even beat them when they gave the wrong answer. But now, after the Wellspring training, all of that has changed. The teachers are always there. The teachers are encouraging and helpful when they are learning. And the parents have learned the importance of helping their children in their education and supporting the teachers.
One parent asked the group if she could speak to us directly, at which point she held up a picture of her son and she held it against her heart. And although we couldn't understand what she was saying, the interpreter said that this was her son who had graduated from the school and had now graduated from high school. And she was so thankful for the difference that Wellspring had made in the school and in her son's life. And although, again, we couldn't understand what she was saying, as parents, we understood what it meant as she held this picture over her heart, what it meant in the change in her and her son's life and in their lives forever. And so, Wellspring, by empowering and transforming the schools, the teachers, the parents, the community, Wellspring forever has empowered and transformed each of these children's lives, giving them the tools to be all that God created them to be. And this is just such an amazing work to be able to build in to the lives of these children and these families in Rwanda.
At the beginning of Alan and Donna's piece, you heard them speaking about 2 areas of Wellspring's story that are now independent and sustainable entities. The first being the Wellspring Academy, which Andy also referenced in 2013, going out on their own, and they are fully financially independent as well. And then that other piece, the Abundant Leadership Institute, which recently have done the same. So that's just great. We are grateful to each of you, and as this week you continue to give directly and through our silent auction. So we're actually going to get an update now on how things are going there. So we're going to speak with Kelly and Christy about the silent auction. I'm just going to bring these guys onto screen here as well. So there is Kelly, there is Christy, how are things going with the silent auction?
Things are great. We're so excited. Everybody's just loving the silent auction items. It's been so much fun to see our total climb. I just have to do a brief apology. It's feeding time in my zoo, so if you're hearing noise, it's coming from my kitchen.
No worries.
We are currently sitting at $9,826 in our silent auction. Thank you guys so much to everyone who participated so far.
That's great.
Yeah, and Christy and I are here once again to give you guys an update, let you guys know how it's going, and tell you about a few more amazing items that are still there for the taking. So Christy has one item called Storyworth she wants to tell you about.
You are muted, Christy. There we go. There.
Are we on? Are we good?
Yeah, there you go. Great. I've
Great.
done that a few times today. Don't worry.
Okay, classic Zoom mistake. So yeah, I wanted to share a bit about Storyworth. It is something actually that I am doing personally right now with my parents. My sister and I actually purchased it for both of our parents for Christmas this year because we want to capture their life stories. And so this is actually a really easy way to do it. And the company, what they do is they email you a question every week, or they email my parents each a question every week that they answer, and they simply reply to the email, whether they tell a long story or a short story, and they can attach pictures and that kind of thing. And Storyworth will email that reply to all of us so that we can read their responses. And they'll ask questions like, if you could meet anyone in the world, who would it be and why? Who were your favorite sports teams as a child? What was your first date like with your spouse? I'm looking forward to when they answer that one. Another question, how did you figure out how to be a parent? Or what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self? So these are actually great questions, and they provided a lot of discussion and connection during this season in our life. And it's been, a great way to connect with them. And then at the end of the year, Storyworth collects all those stories and they print them into a book that you get to keep. And so that comes with a package. So Storyworth is a package for one person to be emailed those questions, and whoever wants to receive the responses can receive them. And then the book is included in that as well. So it's a great opportunity, and we're so thankful to be able to partner with Storyworth to offer someone this unique experience. And so, so we have that in the silent auction. And Kelly, is there anything else that you want to highlight this morning or this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, I want to still point out that we do have lots of items available in our marketplace. These are more of a buy it now type items. So there's a few of them. It'll tell you how many are available, and you can go in and buy them for the price that's there. So there's no bidding involved in these. In the marketplace, we've also included 10 gorgeous 16 by 24 canvases taken by our wonderful friend Jeff Heath, who we interviewed last night, and who was also the visionary behind our film that we just saw. So go take a look there, grab some gorgeous artwork for your home. And if you are thinking of your home and artwork and that sort of thing, you might also want to check out DesignWorks. So Christy, why don't you tell us about that?
Yes, thank you, Kelly. So DesignWorks, if you are in Southern Ontario and you are realizing in this season that you need to declutter, or you're getting tired of the way that your furniture is arranged and you're thinking we need to design it differently or stage it differently, DesignWorks is offering a consultation. And so our dear friend Linda Milkey, who many of us know and love, will give you an amazing insight and plan for making your home into a space that you love. And so, that's a great item. I don't even think there's a minimum bid on it yet, and it's a great opportunity. So encourage those of you in Ontario to consider that. Kelly, is there anything else that we should know for the silent auction?
Just that, you're going to say hi? Sorry, I've got one coming to say hi. Say hi. Just wanted to let you guys know there's still a couple days left to bid. So the silent auction marketplace will close at noon. At noon on Saturday afternoon. So until then, bid high and bid often, because it's all going to Wellspring's work.
Thank you. Thanks, Christy. Thanks, Kelly. Great to have you guys. We'll talk with you soon. Up next, we have a financial update. And so I'm going to get Barb here, our financial officer, to hop on screen with me. There you are, Barb. How's it going?
Good. Thank you.
Great.
What a great day.
Yeah, it's been good. I feel like kind of fumbling with a bit of technology here, but yeah, we talk about barriers to education. We got some barriers to technology as well.
And it also shows we're human.
That's right. Okay.
And we work with what we can, right? And this is a team that just keeps working with each other. And if there's a hiccup, you just find another way. And that's one thing that I've just seen with our team here in North America and in Rwanda. So keep at it, Jason. We're doing great.
We are plugging along. So you are the one keeping track of where we're at with fundraising. So it was very exciting this morning to open up with, 25% of our funds raised. Still having roughly, at least at the start of the day, about $69,000 left in a match. So where are we at now? How have things gone throughout the day?
Good. We've had a few donations. I'll be honest, I want to be busier. So,
right, okay.
So feel free to click online and make your donations. As you know, it is going to helping our Rwandan friends, and we do have this $100,000 match, which we have a little bit higher than what Jason had announced this morning. But we have about $72,000 left in match. So any donation that is made will be matched up to now that $72,000. Currently, we are sitting right now, including the silent auction total that the girls just announced. We're sitting at $65,334 that it's come in to date. And I just updated the last donation, so we're on it.
Great, that's awesome, and you prompted me to make sure that we have that banner at the bottom. So if you would like to partner with our work, you can go to wellspring.ngo/give, and there's still your donations would be matched dollar for dollar still. So it'd be great for you to partner with us. Thank you so much, Barb, for that update. I will say bye for now, and I guess we're seeing you again tomorrow as well, probably around the same time, to let us know how things are going. Thank you so much for all you're doing, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Great. So I have to bring on now, we are going to hear from a long-term Wellspring partner, a lady by the name of Doris Olafson. Her husband, Ray, was on our board for a long time. She is a great friend of Wellspring, and she is going to share why she chooses to give towards seeing education transformed for Rwandan children. I will just grab that video, and we'll hear what Doris has to say.
I just am here to say why I love Wellspring. I've loved it since it was just an idea that a couple of young guys had. An idea that they didn't come up with, an idea that God put in their hearts and minds. And then our family grew to love it. And then my husband really grew to love it. And he ended up serving on the board. And actually it was one of his final acts of duty and responsibility here on earth was to serve on the Wellspring board, and it was one of his greatest places of pleasure because he could see God doing things that were above and beyond anything that any human scheme or plan could have conceived. He believed in it when it was just a couple of young guys that had the courage and the willingness to follow God. He believed and I believed as it continued to grow and the vision grew bigger and wider and broader and new leadership took the helm and the vision continued to flourish and grow. And that is why we gave as individuals, and that's why I continue to give to Wellspring as a donor, sponsor, an event sponsor, and that's why our family foundation, Joyful Living, Joyful Giving, is committed to giving annual grants to fund projects and initiatives. And that's why I have named Wellspring in my will. And it's kind of a cradle to grave thing. We were there when Wellspring was birthed, and as my husband drew his final breath, as I draw my final breath, we're hoping that we can support Wellspring and go the distance. And we'd encourage you to as well. We thank you if you're currently a donor or a partner or sponsor. We thank you if you have access to foundation funding, if you know people that have foundations, if you serve on a foundation, if you encourage them to have their foundation funding come to Wellspring. And if you haven't named Wellspring in your will and estate yet, I would encourage you to do that. So as God continues to grow and raise up leaders that want to serve Him in Rwanda, those young Rwandan children, those teachers, those families are being transformed through the power of Wellspring. So I encourage you to join us on the journey.
We want to wrap up today's events by sharing more about why your partnership is so important as we continue this work of seeing barriers to quality education broken down. And I am very happy to welcome my colleagues Shauna and Louise to the live stream. This is Louise Riley, though, not Louise Loudoun. So you've met Shauna, you haven't met Louise Riley yet. And she is so excited to be hopping on screen and joining you today. I'm going to bring, there's Shauna, who we have met and seen over the last couple of days. And now there is Louise. Good afternoon. How are you guys doing? That is great. Yeah. Yeah, it's just part of life right now and how things are going. So that's great. I'm trying to think the last time the three of us were together like this was probably sitting in the airport in Addis Ababa, maybe, right? Where we were all together this close and waiting for our flight on the way home from Rwanda, maybe. Hey, great. I'm going to hand it over to you guys. I'm leaving the screen. You guys are just run with it.
I mean, everyone knows we've been talking about barriers to overcoming education today and the things that children and families and teachers need to do to thrive and to provide and receive quality education. And one of the very real barriers that we're all quite, conscious of at the moment is COVID-19. And like we've talked about quality education being a global priority and a universal human right. And the wonderful thing is that countries around the world, while it is a struggle, and in Rwanda as well, people are working really hard to recognize all of those human rights, to make sure that education gets delivered alongside the provision of food. And Jason gave a bit of an update this morning. Louise was in our leadership team meeting early this morning with our team in Rwanda, and has a couple of updates for us just to talk about a bit of how we're doing that on the ground in Rwanda.
Yeah, so thanks, Shauna, for kind of introducing that. We are looking at barriers today, and the thing that I really appreciate about the approach that we're taking at Wellspring just now, and the whole purpose of this campaign is it's both and. It's what we're doing just now to address these immediate needs, and it's also looking to the future and making sure that the pursuit of quality education that we're so committed to continues far beyond this immediate crisis. So when we are asking you to give and to partner with us, and when we're sharing about this, we want to share the bigger picture of the work that we do, why we're so committed to quality education, why we want to see the barriers that Beatrice and Marie-Jean and Louise and Jason have been talking about already today, why we're so committed to seeing those barriers overcome. And right now, why we're also addressing the immediate barriers that COVID-19 is creating for education. So some of you will have been with us earlier when Jason gave a little bit of an update. I just want to recap slightly in case anyone missed that, because just understanding what our work is at the moment in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis that the world is facing and that Rwanda is facing. We just want you to have a really clear and tangible picture of what it is you're supporting when you stand with us in this. So just to recap again, we are focused on getting lessons on the airwaves. We want kids to be able to keep learning even though they're at home. And so part of that has been to partner with the government's project to keep learning alive for children. And so our team is working hard on wrapping up many radio lessons. And I know that Emmanuel spoke about that yesterday. And then it was great to hear this morning, as I think Jason mentioned, I was on a call this morning with our leaders, so got to hear that food has already gone out to over 400 families in the Rubavu district. And that there's just been such a warm welcome, and that this is also really strengthening our relationships there. The work we do in Rubavu has been so warmly welcomed by the government, by the teachers, by leaders, the people that we work with. And this just shows that we care, that we are not, we are focused on education, and that we know that kids need to be nourished to be able to learn, and we're helping to address that need right now. And as Jason shared earlier too, we are having really hopeful conversations with partners who are focused in on girls education, and making sure that preteen and teenage girls particularly have the resources, the tools, the understanding that they need really to thrive, even in such a challenging time. So we're looking into that. We also, as you know, have 3 of our drivers out there on the front lines, really helping to transport doctors, transport supplies, and we're so proud of them and so thankful for them. And like I said to begin with, we are looking at what happens next. There's so much that's unknown, but we will not be stopping our pursuit of quality education for kids, no matter what. I'm excited for the rest of our programme over the next 2 days, but on Saturday we're going to talk a lot about some of our really tangible plans for the future. And so we'll come back to some of these later on. So these are some of the plans, and this kind of work that's going on today, tomorrow, right now, is part of what you are helping to support when you stand with us and when you give to this campaign that we're running just now. So, yeah.
I love that our team has had the opportunity to step up and serve the country of Rwanda, serve the people in our school districts in this way. It's really cool to see, and loved seeing the photos coming in of people just doing that work. And I was thinking, like, one of the things I love and one of the things that we talk about a lot as a team is the importance of the individual person that we work with. If you go on our website, when you log on, you'll see all these numbers pop up, and we work with about 195,000 children. That's the number that's impacted by our work. But as a team, we always want to bring it back to the one child, the one person, the one teacher. And I think if you could ask any one of our teammates, we all have a story of meeting one child or one person, one parent who impacted our view of Rwanda, or maybe impacted our view of the work that we're a part of. And I think those moments are really where compassion begins, is when we learn to see people, like really see people. I've been struck by this recently, but in the New Testament, there's wonderful moments in the passages read that Jesus sees people, he feels compassion, and then he acts. And examples like he saw the crowd, he felt compassion, and he began to teach them. He saw the widow, he had compassion, he raised her son from the dead. He saw them, he felt compassion for them, and he healed their sick. And so during this time, there's so much need in our world. And during the pandemic, I think we really need to remember to truly see people, to remember to love our neighbors, whether those are our neighbors who are right next door or whether our neighbors in Rwanda. And our Rwandan teammates do that so well. As Jason referenced earlier, Louise and he and I and Andy were in Rwanda in October, and we got to be part of the team retreat where we kind of planned for the future. And one of the things that I loved hearing about was from our teammates, so many stories about them going into a school with hundreds of children, sometimes thousands of children, and they would notice and care for one single child who would stand out to them, and they would be like, how's it going? What's going on? And they would just notice that that kid needed some extra love and some extra care. And so I know that even when they're facilitating and unloading and driving thousands of kilograms of maize flour and beans, that behind every one of those bags of maize and beans, that there's a child and a family and a teacher that they're caring for. There's an individual behind all of it. And I just think that's such an amazing way that they do their work, and we all strive to do our work.
Mm-hmm. And that's such a key part of our culture at Wellspring. One of our colleagues, before we started our Stay Home Gala, really encouraged us all to think about what is the why for us. We're talking a lot about the work that we do and why we do it and the details of it. But as we each kind of think about why it is that we're so engaged in this and why we believe that it's a great thing to be involved in, an important cause, an important project, we've been thinking about our own personal reflections, and what you've just shared that's just paramount for me. That's why I'm part of Wellspring. And just to reflect back on my first time in Rwanda with Wellspring, I had been once before, But in 2014, I went for the first time with Wellspring, and I really saw what you were talking about embodied in my first ever visit to one of the schools that we were working in. And my colleagues have heard this many times, but I sat in a school in the Gasabo district at that point. We weren't yet working in Rubavu, but I sat in a school and we heard from parents and teachers and leaders, and we heard from a student as well, and just really got to hear about the impact that our team and the training and the coaching and mentoring that we provide, how that's making a difference. And the thing that stood out to me, and still does 6 years later, was when one of the parents talked about how when the Wellspring team come and they're with us at the school, or when we go to training that's run, there's something different about the way that we're treated. We're treated with dignity, we're treated with respect. And he said specifically, you can be a cleaner in a school or you can be a principal. It doesn't matter who you are, Wellspring treats you with the same respect and dignity. And that's just the culture. So everything that you're hearing about over these few days in terms of the work that we do, it comes out of a heart to see every single person, every child in a school, every parent, every family, everyone who's connected, treated with dignity and respect. And so it all comes down to that one child. And when you're giving, we're asking you to partner with us throughout this week. And when we ask you that, we are asking you to partner with projects and activities and plans and, things that are happening on a daily basis. But ultimately, you're giving to help each one of these individual people, each of them who has a story and potential and a future ahead of them. And it's just so important to frame it in that. So as we wrap things up today, I want to share a bit more about how to give. I just want to make sure that we wrap up on that note, but I think I'd be wrong if I didn't frame it in a particular way. I was so blessed and so encouraged this morning on our leadership team call. When Amina, who we heard from yesterday, she's our operations director in Rwanda, and she shared about the food distribution that we've been doing. She shared this morning that when our team in Rwanda met to pray today, as they do every day at the moment, actually every day normally as well, when they met together today, she said there was such an air of gratitude. People were just bubbling over with thanks to God for his provision, thankful for the way that he is providing ways that we can tangibly help in a time like this, thankful for our partners. So I just feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't also focus on that. Our team in Rwanda are facing such a huge challenge, and yet their posture right now is gratitude. So I just want to start by saying just how grateful we are to each one of you, whether you're watching just now or whether you've given, whether you're considering giving, whether you've been long-time partners or you're brand new to Wellspring. We are so thankful that you are on this journey with us. And as Shauna said, we've been in Rwanda recently and we've seen the difference that you're making. So we encourage you to give. We encourage you to give generously to help us see kids thrive in such a challenging time. And also to help us continue the work beyond COVID as we continue the work of seeing quality education just infiltrate every school in Rwanda. That's our dream. So I believe, Jason, potentially there is I can't see it right now, but there is probably a link at the bottom of the screen right now.
There is, yeah.
Fancy that. Well done. If you follow the link, you can give right now or at the time that works for you, but you can give a one-time donation, or you can also choose to sign up as a monthly school partner. I help to run that program, so no one will be surprised to hear me give it a little plug. But monthly partnership with Wellspring really makes such a difference. It's a sustainable way of giving and just having an ongoing impact in our work. And we keep you up to date as a monthly partner. We keep you up to date with things that are going on in Rwanda, how the work is going, and we even partner you up with a particular school so you have that tangible connection to track along with one school and see the impact as well. So you can give one time, you can sign up monthly, and of course you can give through our silent auction, and we've heard about that at various points today at wellspringgala.ca. You can go in there and bid for items as well. But I just want to come back to that note of thanks. We are truly grateful for your partnership. It means so much to us, and it really is making a huge difference. So thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Great to have you here and on the call. Finally, Louise, and Shauna. So We do have scrolling across the bottom give now. So the URL, wellspring.ngo/give. And we would love for you guys to be partnering with us. I'm going to say bye to you two. And I'm just going to wrap up for today. So thanks so much for joining me. Great. See you guys. So that comes to the end of Stay Home Gala Day 2. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to keep tracking along with our social media channels. There's a lot of content that will still be going out throughout the day. Pieces from what we've live streamed and others. So you can hop on to Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. You can go back to YouTube and watch some parts over again if you want to take a look at me fumbling in the beginning. You could watch that again. And we do really would love your interaction as well. We'd love to hear from you. We want to be praying for you as well if you have prayer requests. And we just really want, to be a time of engagement for you as well. And so we'd love to hear from you. We are going to be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern, to share another new inspiring film that we've put together, some more impact stories straight from Rwanda. And in the evening, we have a concert with Mike Jansen, a jazz concert that will be starting, I believe, at 7:15. So it would be great if you could join us for that as well. We look forward to another great day tomorrow. So just a reminder, you can give at wellspring.ngo/give. And I'll just say bye for now, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow.